Hi there, sweet mommies. This is Sherry Hayes with MomDelights.com. I'm the mom of 15 and I've been homeschooling for over 3 decades. So I want to add something to your life today. You can go ahead and mop the floor, sweep the children, wash the dishes, and listen as we dive into the good life in Jesus. Okay, so today we're going to talk about cheating. I love to cheat. I cheat every day. And you know what? You probably do too. You just don't realize it. The whole idea we're going to talk about is how we live in the world, but not of it. And when it comes to homeschooling, we really have to be able to navigate this world with a different kind of mindset, a kingdom mindset. Our children need to learn about all the tests and the grades and the deadlines, but only as subservient to the bigger picture of a holistic existence, right? We are whole beings. We are body, soul, and spirit. Now, God created us, so we belong to Him first and foremost. But on this earth where we operate, where God has allowed us to live so that we can show Him how much we truly love Him, we are subservient to the law. We are subservient to the civil servants of wherever we live, right? We're subservient to the government in which, the nation in which we live, that we are a citizen of. We're citizens of citizens. And so as citizens, we need to be able to understand how much belongs to the government and how much belongs to God. Now, Jesus said something very important. He said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar, and give to God what is God's." And the Bible even talks about how we owe taxes, and we owe honor, and we owe respect to the leaders of the nation or the area in which we live. It's not unbiblical for us to do the basics, to pay our taxes, to give honor. God expects that. He talks about that. That honors God when we do that. However, sometimes we let it go in our minds and let it go too far, and we give Caesar more than his due. Okay, here's one example. Caesar takes too much by convincing us we can buy our way out of boredom, depression, and overwhelm, okay? So how does he do this? Well, we are programmed, we are by everything in our culture from the time we were born, and we're told, if you just buy something, you'll be happier. If you buy this thing, you'll be wiser. If you buy this thing, you'll be healthier. If you buy this thing, you'll have a better family life. You won't be bored anymore. If you buy more organizers, you'll become organized. But you know what? Then when we buy all that stuff and we have a house filled with stuff, we're still bored and depressed and overwhelmed. So buying ourselves out of things doesn't work. But in order for our economy to work the way they want it to, they have to keep us buying. We have to keep buying all the stuff so that they can have their little flow charts going up and everything. But that's not for us as human beings. That's what Caesar wants, but that's not what God wants. What God does is He says, what is in your hand? If you're bored or you're depressed or you're overwhelmed, God will say to you, I've already provided for you what you need. What is in your hand? And I will take that little thing in your hand and I will bless it, and it will fulfill the need that you have, right? And so that's just one example. There are many, many other examples. And when we're talking about homeschooling, we're talking about how we can take the little bit that God gives us, and if we use it to its greatest benefit, we don't have to go and give Caesar our hard-earned money, so that we have to work more hours away from our family, so that we have to try to shovel it around in our house, and so we have less time because we've got all this clutter and dirt and everything that's in it every day, right? Okay, now as far as education, we need to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So we're wise as serpents. Not to say that we bite people, but we can kind of figure things out. We can figure out the system. We can use this education system, this economic system, this governmental system, and use it according to what God wants us to do. Okay, this system might be meant for programming and making machines, and it's kind of cruel and it's insane at the same time. But we can operate with what we have, and we can be in the world and not of it, and we can play this system like a fiddle. And I'll show you some ways we can do that, okay? We want to keep our children spotless citizens of heaven while helping them become the most effective at influencing this current culture, right? Okay, so we must teach them to cheat. Now, this is not the cheating of dishonesty or bribes or corruption. This is just taking the convoluted materials we're handed in this insane system, breaking them down to their elements and reconstructing them according to sanity, then fitting that bit of sanity back into the system where it can both wreck the madness and build God's loving order back in. So, case in point for vocation for a child, right? The current insanity is that you have to be in school for 17 years at least, right? You have to get in major debt, which cannot be forgiven at a certain point. You have to sit in a cubicle after you graduate and get your little paper. You have to sit in a cubicle for many years, and you have to live to pay your loans off. But there are ways to cheat that system. Okay, there are alternative careers that don't cost you a mint to get into. Sometimes the employer will pay you to be trained in these careers, and they're every bit as fulfilling as the ones that you spend gazillions of dollars for. One of our daughters right now is currently going through training to be a person who traces airline ticket payments through the different airlines internationally. It's fascinating work. And the employer is training her. She's taking a 6-week intensive course. They're training her, and when she is done, she only has to work 4 days at home and 1 day in the office, and it's really good pay and really good benefits. But she didn't have to go to college for 4 years and pay all the money, and she's going to be every bit as satisfied. She won't have any loans to pay off, so her paycheck will mean more to her, and it's something that she really likes doing. So that's just one idea. Also, homeschooling can reduce the years that a child has to be in college because you can learn a lot of this stuff at home cheaper, okay? There are ways you can go to a community college for your first years of college, and it's much cheaper. Just make sure you can transfer, okay, your credits. And also, if you can do online, you can do so many different things, and you can test out of certain subjects that you can get homeschool. I was just reading in the homeschool catalog that I got from Christian book distributors, and they were talking about how there's a company that actually has a chemistry program that you can take at home and do all the labs and everything, and it prepares you to take the chemistry, the college chemistry test, so that you can test out of courses for college there at home, and that cuts down on the cost and everything. And also, there are many vocations that only require a certificate and not a degree, and they pay just as well, and you don't have to have the debt. Okay. There are entrepreneurial pursuits that a child can do. They can take a skill and they can just do their own thing, or they can find like something that's really in demand, and the employer will pay them for their college. Like I said, okay, there are mentorships for all kinds of things. You know, the 4-year degree isn't the only way you have to go. So in a way, when you find all these different interesting things you can do, it's kind of cheating the system because you're not complying with what they want you to do. You don't have to be a slave this way, see? Just get that. We can also cheat on the micro scale every day. We can let the children play. I know that's awful, but that's cheating. You know, we're supposed to have them from toddlerhood in an institutional setting where they will learn to sit still, and if they don't, we'll know to give them medication early. They're not allowed to play. They're not allowed to do anything. But when we homeschool, we can let our children play. There have been so many studies that have shown that children who are allowed to play more than do school at younger ages, their eyesight develops better, their fine motor skills develop better, maybe not as early, but better, they have more interest in learning later on, and they don't burn out as much. And they just think better. They can understand concepts like math at earlier ages and better. I mean, I'm saying a child who's 9, okay, if they've been schooled since they were 4 years old and they come to 9 and they're supposed to do math, their poor little brains, they're done, right? But a child who's been allowed to play and finally they're introduced mathematical concepts at the age of 9, they can grasp them more easily because their brain is not like fatigue, right? It's true. They've done study after study. And if you want to find out more about this, you can read books by Dr. Raymond Moore. That's Moore. And he explains it, and it makes a lot of sense. Okay, you can teach self-mastery, and we've talked about this before, via doing chores around the house and helping the family and volunteering and doing all those other wonderful things, right? And these things are very important, and they cheat the system because then you've got someone who not only knows how to work, which is a boon, but also they develop empathy and understanding, and they're kind-hearted because they're not afraid to work to help someone else, right? Okay, you can also do academics for only a few hours a day. Who says you have to study academics for 6 hours a day? That would kill me. And you can learn more, better, and faster doing only like 3 to 5 hours a day. You don't have to go past that, and your kids are going to have amazing educations. I've done it over and over again. I know it's true, right? Okay, you can allow your teens to follow their passions in high school. They don't have to do all the requirements and all the assemblies and all the blah, blah, blah. They can just take the time they would normally be like dating and messing around with their friends, because that's really what they go to high school for, right? They can take that time and just like go whole hog into something they're interested in. And even if it doesn't turn out to be the vocation they have, they're like, at least they have a good hobby and they've still developed all kinds of other skills, right? So that's cheating the system too. Okay, you can, and here's something that's really good for you to use. It's the MORE formula. You can look it up online. I'll try to link it below in the description. And that's Dr. Raymond Moore. He actually developed a formula for success that he based on studying the lives of a lot of people who did very well in their lives. The lives of people who did lives. I did it again. I do these redundancies all the time. But anyway, so what he did is he studied these different cases of people who did very well, and he noticed certain things they had in common. So these certain common things they all did, he put them in this list. And you can see this list, and it's very, very freeing when you read it. Okay, now here's something you can do to cheat every day as a homeschooler that I do on a regular basis with my kids. Okay, and that's give them the answers while they're doing their work. Now this applies mostly to things like math and science, right? The things that are more technical. But if I am working through algebra or some kind of math with my children, I make sure that they have the answer booklet. Even with grammar. Did you know that when they first sold the Ray's Arithmetics and the Harvey's Grammar, that they sold the books with the answers right down below the questions? Yeah, they did that because when children were studying on their in their own home with their own parents, they needed the answers right away to kind of know which direction they were going. That's what I use our textbook answer books for. So we'll be working through, my daughter and I were working through algebra together. I have my own book, she has her own book, and we each have an answer booklet. I have the one that doesn't show the solutions, she has the one that shows the solutions. And what I do is as I'm doing the problems, I'll look and see if that's right, and I'll say, well, why was that wrong? And I'll redo it, and I'll learn from that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You were the teacher, your kids can do that. And I'm telling you, you'll learn so much more doing it that way, because it's not like, you know, I can remember the frustration I had when I took higher math, and I went up to algebra 3-4 trigonometry in school. And I would go in class, I would understand how the teacher explained it, and I would go home with the book and I'd get lost. You know, if I had had an answer book that showed me the answer, I could go. And they had like every other answer in the back, right? It helps you to keep on track. It helps you to know. And then when you make a mistake, you rework it and you find your own mistake, and you actually get farther ahead. So don't feel bad if you're giving your kids the answer booklets. I do it all the time. Okay. Another way that you can cheat is you can learn real facts, ideas, and concepts, and not the scope and sequence. In other words, you can learn interesting things and not the things they want to make you learn. Now, you might have to touch on those things because in some states they test, I know, and all that kind of stuff. But try to approach what they require from a different direction where it's interest level, it's interest driven. It's something you want to do. That's something they make you do. And so it's, right? I mean, most people hate history, right? Because how you learn it in school is the dumbest way ever contrived. I mean, I think they do that on purpose so you don't like it because history is so important, right? Okay, here's another thing, that way we can cheat. When we homeschool, we develop relationships over materials, right? So I know you got a lot of little kids and you got older kids and you're wondering, am I hurting them by having these little kids, my older kids? No. That's part of the curriculum. Your older child who's having to rock the baby while you make the dinner. Now, I'm not talking about sitting around and lazing around so your kids have to do everything. No. I'm talking about just getting a little support and help from your older kids when you're trying to help a younger kid, or when you're trying to cook or clean or pay the bills or whatever you have to do. Okay, that is part of the curriculum. Your kids sitting at the table, and sometimes they distract each other, but sometimes they goad each other on, right? There's that competition. But anyway, when they do that, that is part of our home curriculum. That's an important part. Actually, it's the most important part. Just say it, all right? I know, I'm not supposed to say that. That's cheating. You're cheating Caesar, by the way, because he's trying to cheat you. All right, now you understand I'm anthropomorphizing. I'm saying that wrong. I'm giving human traits to some idea. I know Caesar is just an idea, but you understand what I mean. Okay, now we teach them to cheat also by teaching them to be Bereans. We're teaching them to question everything. Just because it's in a textbook doesn't mean it has to be the truth. We are taught a whole bunch of lies in schools and curriculums and textbooks. Even Christian textbooks often follow the same line as public schools. They just throw a Bible verse in there every once in a while. Okay. Now I wanted to tell, I found, look, in my notes, I actually have the Moore formula. I'm going to read it to you. This is fascinating. Okay. The Moore formula is basically this. Now there's more to it and you can study it better on your own. Okay. Number 1, study from a few minutes to several hours a day depending on the child's maturity. Okay. Manual work at least as much as study. Oh, that's interesting. You're supposed to have manual labor as much as study. That's cheating, isn't it? Okay. 3, home or community service, an hour or so a day. You're supposed to serve at home or for others. Okay, focus on the kids' interests and needs. Be an example in consistency, curiosity, and patience. Live with them, worry less about tests, and a child's motivation is more educationally productive than the most skilled teaching. So a child's motivation, right? And that just really jives with the Charlotte Mason ideas, doesn't it? All this stuff. Okay, now we need also, when we're teaching our kids, what they teach you in school, they teach you the what of everything, and maybe sometimes the how, but we need to teach them the why of everything. Like, why do you need to brush your teeth? Now make sure you brush your teeth every day. Why? You say, don't do this, do that, but why? Teach them the why, and they will remember it forever. Okay. We must cheat Caesar every day wherever Caesar is reaching in and trying to take more than his share. Everywhere in our lives. We must value biblical morality over relative social ethics. We must have allegiance to family over allegiance to institutions. I hope you can flesh that out in your own mind. We need to have relationships over material, as I said. Human over machine. Biblical wisdom over scientism. Okay? Less cerebral, more soul. Time over money. People over things. The small is greater than the big, right? The servant is greater than the master. Serving is better than commanding. Real life is better than virtual life. Vocation or calling is better than a career. And character is more important than image. Those are all ways that we cheat Caesar, okay? Okay. So I hope that you got the gist of what I was trying to say. And with that, I will give you also an update on the commonplace books. I have not been forgetting. I've actually been working really hard, and I had such a learning curve trying to figure out how to color them. Yeah, but I have actually colored a whole cover, and I'm just putting some finishing touches on the first volume of the commonplace book. Hopefully be done maybe by the end of next week. I know it's taken longer than I thought. I do apologize, but I hope you stay with me because I think they're gonna be worth it, right? So I hope you're enjoying the hot weather and doing lots of swimming and wonderful things. Please like and subscribe and click bells and all that wonderful thing. And you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.